Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. It has been a long time since we have wandered through the wildwood together, and today I am here revisiting this deck because one of you asked a very significant question. And honestly, I think I'm using the Wildwood Tarot as an example here, but I think this is something that we can explore in other decks as well too. And the question is how to reconcile the artwork with the intended seasons, because the Wildwood Tarot is built around the wheel of the year. And what do we do when the artwork doesn't match the seasons? And so we're going to look specifically at that today. So welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Sadhana. I am a tarot reader and teacher, healer, and it's my pleasure to be here to unpack these questions like this for you, questions like this for you today. So I've got on the table here the suit of arrows, and the suit of arrows begins the journey in the wildwood. And let me get my water out of the way here. From the 1st of February. So there really is no beginning and no ending, but let's say we're going to start today's conversation with the suit of arrows. Now, the suit of arrows at the 1st of February, and you may like to imagine, I live in Western Canada, not too far from Vancouver, British Columbia, and this is a deck that is inspired by nature, by perhaps the historical nature, weather patterns, climatic patterns, seasons, and traditions in the UK. And at this time of Imbolc, right? February 1st, we have two major archetypes at Imbolc, and one is the ancestor and one is the pole star. This, I've always thought, is a very fitting card, as the ancestor, it looks like the ancestor is in between seasons. I do have one other deck that does this quite well, and I think it's in the aces. And the aces are a border between the seasons, and it's a very intentional seasonal deck. I think this is in the Victorian Fairy Tarot. However, in the star card, there is no sign of snow. Another way that we could find our way through this is to get familiar with which cards are assigned to the interior landscape as opposed to which cards are assigned to the exterior landscape. And that may help to reconcile some of the artwork. And so in this particular instance, the ancestor is the interior landscape, which would be colder. The exterior landscape might feel a little bit freer. So I'm just sort of offering that up. So 1st of February until the 1st of May, we journey through the suit of arrows. Ace of arrows, 2, 3. To me, this artwork looks like the greenery has not developed. This is early spring before we see any buds on the trees. A little bit early to see a butterfly. But this landscape, to me, does not particularly speak to any particular season. We do see the full moon in the 6 of arrows card. And to me, there's not really any sign of budding spring. We seem to have taken a step backward in the 8 of arrows and come to a part of the land that is still frozen. Perhaps we've moved a little more northerly. And then we see a little bit of greenery in the 9, and the 10 may very well be an interior landscape, interior scene. And then the shaman is the major that sits at the heart of the wildwood, the heart of the wheel for this season. And the other two are the stag and the archer. Fairly nondescript, airy looking cards. And I don't really see any particular weather pattern that is attached. Now, we do have a problem if you are if you need to attach the artwork very specifically to the wheel to make sense of this deck, then I don't think it's going to work. Because there are, it's not consistent. It's not consistent. And I honestly am wondering if the artist and the deck creators didn't entirely connect on this together. Now, the reason I'm saying this is according to the wheel of the year, the way that this deck is laid out, as we go through the suit of arrows, we begin with the king and we go king, queen, knight, and page. And, hi Laura, I think that the artist probably assumed that the deck was going to be read page, knight, queen, and king because the snow appears in the page card, not in the king card. So what is my advice here? My advice is that you either let go of this or you have a little more fluidity. I know that I have lived in places where winter comes and winter goes, and sometimes we think that spring has sprung, and then all of a sudden we get hit by snow. I've lived somewhere where it has snowed in May, freak storm. So this does happen. So the suit of arrows doesn't exactly fit perfectly with that energy of February 1st to May 1st. The next set of majors takes us to Beltane, May 1st. And I think both the interior of the wheel and the exterior of the wheel, especially the Lover's card, looks very much like a scene you may find at Beltane. Now the energy here perhaps takes us back to a time when the weather was different. We all know that the climactic patterns have changed. The season of bows goes from May 1st to August 1st. And the season of bows is the season of fire, the season of heat, the season of summer. This, for those of you that work strictly with Golden Dawn correspondences, where the season of fire is spring, this is just a matter of, switching the track and going, okay, in this deck, fire is May 1st to August 1st, the hottest time of the year. Now, it would make sense that if we spread out all of these cards from ace to 10, that the hottest cards would be in the center at the peak of the summer. Granted, August 1st is very hot where I live. Like we still have lots of fire here. Now, these are bonfires. So I would say that these bonfires are symbolic of outdoor activity, outdoor gatherings. They are symbolic of the heat. And Yes, we do have bonfires and ceremonies all year around, especially around the Sabbats. But for me, this suit kind of works. And I don't have an issue with these particular cards and the way that they're drawn. There's no snow in the cards. Um, there's some green on the grass. So perhaps this would be burnt off in the heat of the summer, but we're not really, I mean, I don't know historically what it was like 100 years ago in the UK as far as this time of year went. But this deck kind of works. This suit kind of works for me. Now, when we look at the court cards, King, Adder, again, we have a discrepancy here. I suspect that Will Worthington assumed that the pages were the first card of the new season because we have spring flowers in the page. I mean, we could get together and have a chat with Mark Ryan, John Matthews, for sure. But I think the question here is, does this matter? I want to say yes, it would be really, really nice if it aligned. But when I'm working with a deck like this, I have spent many times going through this. There was a few videos in this series that I did some time ago, and it never really occurred to me that it didn't work. I spent time getting to know the associated majors, and naturally it made sense that the sun was one of the major archetypes for the season of bows. And then also in the season of bows, we have the green woman and the green man. And those are, that felt just right to be at the peak of this particular suit, this particular season. And I didn't have any questions there. The world tree is at the heart of this part of the tree. And I really, really liked the fact that at the end of this season, we have the woodward and the blasted oak. This reminds me of summer storms, lightning storms. I mean, I have been in very, I remember on summer vacation, there being freak storms and lightning and hail at the same time. So these kind of bizarre weather patterns can happen, especially when emotions are high, when things are changing. And then the woodward also sits here. And to me, this looks like a card at the change of season. Perhaps he's a little overdressed for that time of year. The red clothing, the wild cat, symbolic of fire, symbolic of summer. So I never questioned this before. So when I look at these two suits so far, the only place where I struggle a little bit would be that the pages are in the wrong position, according to the way that the deck description has been laid out, with the courts going king, queen, knight, and page. Okay, so let's have a look at the suit of vessels and see how that plays out, because the suit of vessels comes next, and the suit of vessels goes from August 1st until Samhain, until November 1st. The seer, which makes perfect sense, is at the center of the suit of Vessels. The Wheel. The Wheel is there. Lots of water in this card. And I think one of the questions was, so here we are. The mirror's also here. Let me get the ace for you. Okay. This looks like a very summery card in the Ace of Vessels. Again, another very summery card. So remember that we still are in August. And we have love, right? We have, I think this works. I think this works. I don't think we need to start seeing fall leaves yet. We have perhaps a mating ritual with the oh my goodness. I was going to call them swans, but they're not swans. The cranes. We have lots of greenery. I suppose in the forest, the evergreens would still be green. This is certainly a card that I would imagine at late summer with the beautiful starry sky. And now, in the latter half of this suit, as we move through September, I would expect different coloring. And yes, in the Six of Vessels, we do get different coloring. We have a little bit of orange in the background. We can see that there's falling leaves on the trees. There are few leaves on the trees here. Kind of looks like we're venturing towards Samhain. There's no leaves on the tree here. This is an amazing card, isn't it? The Nine of Vessels. So we can't see greenery in that card. And in the Ten of Vessels, I imagine we're deep in the forest, where there are lots of evergreens and lots of... Now, would there be lots of running water at the end of the summer? That's another question. End of the summer, the creeks and the rivers don't tend to run so heavily, at least where I live. So I understand why you were asking these questions. So we have this situation of, all right, so this deck has a system. And if the deck has a system, why doesn't the artwork seem to fit with the system? I don't know. Historical differences in climate, perhaps. A lack of communication between the artist and the deck creators. Or is this not so important that we need to put an incredible amount of weight on it? All right, so let's look at the suit of stones, the final suit. So we start at November 1st. So this is Samhain. These are very Samhain-y looking cards here. We have the Journey card and the Guardian. As I'm pushing these cards to the side, I'm never gonna find one if I need to pull one. So there, those two start November 1st. And so we're journeying now from November 1st to February 1st. I think this card makes sense. I mean, northern lights are most visible in the cold of the winter. The hooded man is in the snow. This certainly looks like a winter card. And the Wanderer is at the center of the wheel here. And I honestly, when I think of this card, I imagine this card as the one that moves us from the suit of stones to the suit of arrows. But yeah, so that definitely does not look like a winter card, and that sits at the heart of the suit of stones. Okay, so let's go to the Ace of Stones. And remember, we are at the time of November 1st. So there should be no leaves on the trees. It's cold. It's windy. I don't see any leaves on the trees. Starry sky, bare trees, a sense of cold and isolation. Very barren in that card. This is a really interesting card, the healing card. So everything looks quite bare, except for the healer, and the healer radiates enough energy to have their own growth. And then we're inside a cave looking out. This person is not warmly dressed in the middle of winter. Same here. So we are outside. Imagine, standing stone circle. Such a beautiful card. Obviously a full moon, an auspicious day, but not... I understand the question. Why are they not fully clad? If this is winter, why are they not in furs and things like that? Okay. Now, the King of Stones, and again we have, so this is the same issue. So if the King of Stones were at a little bit later on, right? So we're going from November 1st until February 1st. It would make sense that the snow is here, and then we meet up with the wren, the page of arrows, and then we have snow and snow. So I think what I am putting together here is that I think I might be on to something. What's my advice? Well, you could, if this is really important to you, you could change the order of the court cards and work with the court cards, page, knight, queen, and king, because then the artwork fits better. However, then you're going to have to adjust the assignments that are in the 3 books. So there are 3 books that are associated with, that you can use with this particular deck. And if you're using Alison Cross's book, A Year in the Wildwood, then you could still read the relevant pages, but just, switch up the artwork. Would I do that? Probably not. I've always worked with this deck as it is intended. And when I think about the solstices and the equinoxes, I understand we're at the 6s in the minor arcana. And this is the place where we're transitioning from queen to knight. And I sort of have that all etched into my memory because I worked with this deck for many years. But I really appreciate your question. I really appreciate the attention that drew you, the detail that drew you to this question in the first place. Yeah. So that's my answer. That's my answer. If you have other ideas or solutions or experiences with this deck, I look forward to a bit of a conversation in the comments below. And then perhaps we can support one another in figuring out how or why, or even if it's worthy of spending time puzzling over, because I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because it's there's enough cards that work. All right. Okay. So probably not the answer you wanted to hear because I don't have the definitive answer, but there we go. Okay. Thank you so much for this question, and I look forward to ongoing discussion. Take good care. Namaste.